joined by Nebraska head coach Mike Riley. You guys have got everything going in the right direction up there. You're 4-0, a big win over Oregon a couple of weeks ago. Be honest with me, was that win over Oregon a little bit more special to you, being because you're from there, you've spent so much time in that state? How was kind of the reaction to that win?
Well, I was a little bit taken back when I first got the job, and somebody told me right away, "Hey, Oregon in 2 years." So it was kind of funny, and but I look at this stuff like, Oregon has been a great challenge for us for years out at Oregon State, and so I'm like I said, I've got a lot of respect for him, but I was also excited about the opportunity, and so it was personally a great win, but even better, it was good for this year's team. It was a big game relatively early in the season, and I love how our team responded.
Speaking of all the time you spent out there playing Oregon at Oregon State, I think people were a little bit surprised when you landed at Nebraska, probably just because how long you've been at Oregon State. What was it about Lincoln and Nebraska in particular that made you think that was a good move for you? Because I'm sure it wasn't your first job offer ever. I mean,
it was one of those. No, through the years, we had gone through some possibilities, but I really thought I was going to try to probably stay and hopefully retire at Oregon State, but something about the timing and the opportunity and the uniqueness and a different place, a different conference. We'd been there a long time, but we had also kind of been around the block a little bit, so we weren't novices to being able to say, look, we might have, my wife and I said, we got time for one more adventure here. And this is a great place that we thought would be a good fit, and so we just decided to do it. And it all happened so fast; it was like a blur, totally. But it was hard to leave, and exciting to come. And I can honestly say that I left a place that I loved and will always love, and I'm loving where I'm at. So I feel very, very thankful and fortunate for it.
Yeah, I mean, the allure of Nebraska obviously is obvious with the tradition and the stadium and the fans there that fill up everything. Was there anything that kind of surprised you when you got there that maybe you weren't expecting, good or bad, either way?
Well, I think probably mostly it was confirmation, but I sometimes think that when you hear about stuff and read about it, and we're all kind of football junkies, so we pay close attention, but actually being in it, it's always been kind of a learning experience, but mostly a confirmation of everything that you just said and everything that we've learned about the fans and about the people here. It's a great state. There's a ton of pride, an immense amount of passion for their teams, and not just football, but all their teams, and they just love it. And it's fun to be a part of that. Very special. And we're just about the business of trying to make it the very best that we can.
Now, obviously, we can't talk specifics when it comes to recruiting stuff because of NCAA rules, but we can talk in generalities. You guys are obviously experiencing some success in California. What's the pitch out there? I mean, what makes Nebraska attractive to a kid from California or from the West Coast?
Well, I think that the key here is getting guys to visit. When I first got the job, I interviewed every player on the team, and as we went through the conversation, I asked each one of them why they chose Nebraska, and so many of them said, well, when I visited, I knew, and so we knew that was a key part of it. And then, we've got, from our previous life, we've got connections in California and know folks, so it was natural to kind of enter into the recruiting out there. But you have to find the right guy, the right player, and the guy that is a little bit adventurous, wants to explore. And when we can get him to come out here to visit, we feel like we have a chance to get him.
When Nebraska is at its best, it's one of those programs with a truly national recruiting base. Are there other areas of the country that you guys want to try to move into that maybe you haven't done it yet? Or, in the Southeast or somewhere else?
Well, that's probably the area. We are recruiting a few guys from the Southeast, and probably Georgia has been a little bit of a natural link because we had a young man committed there right away when we got here. So with Aaron Williams, and so with that connection, we tried to expand it and got another guy the next year. So it has been that part of it's been pretty good. But you're right. I think that we have to be national. But we also want to be very, very good in our home base, and our home base is Nebraska. But it's also an area around here. We've got this idea that there's a 500-mile radius from Lincoln that is all recruitable for us. And that leads us to Minneapolis and Chicago, and almost to Indianapolis, and for sure St. Louis and Kansas City and Denver. And pretty close with Dallas, really, pretty close to that 500-mile radius. So, that's somewhat of a driving distance for people that can visit. So we want to be really good in that area. But we've done really well in Louisiana and Florida. And as you mentioned, we're doing well in California. And we've gotten 2 years in a row guys out of New Jersey, which historically for Nebraska has been good. So we've reached all the parts. We got a kid last year out of Camas, Washington, that's punting for us right now, Caleb Lightborn. So, we've got to be careful because it's all about man hours and where you're going to put your time. But we also know that Nebraska is national and that we've got an opportunity to really recruit kids from anywhere.
You played under Bear Bryant, which is something that, he's something, if people my age never really got to see him coach, or he's just kind of like a ghost, this legendary figure to us. Are there Bear Bryant stories that kind of stand out in your mind when you kind of look back at your time with him, and what kind of guy was he, and is there anything that just kind of pops off the page when you think about stories about him?
Oh, that's fun right there. I'm really thankful for that time. More thankful today than I was probably going through it. You just go through it as a kid and you don't realize you're part of, really college football history. I really appreciated being in that program. I wasn't a very good player, but I always felt like part of the team, and that's what really Coach Bryant did the best. I think there was just such great pride in playing for Alabama and playing for Coach Bryant, and that's what brought everybody together on that team, and we had such great success, and I'm thankful for mostly the opportunity to play for him and the friends that I met down there, and it was just a great lifetime experience for me.
When you think of him, is there one story in particular that you think of?
Well, it's probably Coach Bryant spent most of the time in that part of his coaching career in a tower, and and he had a megaphone up there, and it was either he said, something happened on the field and he'd say that's a goodie, or if it wasn't so good, he said, what the heck is going on down there? And if he ever came down before the end of practice, it probably wasn't good. There was going to be something happen. So, everybody had a ton of respect for him, and he was actually pretty soft-spoken with the team, but this was a program that had a ton of pride, a ton of discipline, and you had to be a hard worker that persevered to stay in the program.
There's plenty out there on the internet written about this. Obviously, I didn't live it, but I read on some publications that you were offered that Alabama job in 2002 when Francione left. Is that true? And did you ever consider taking it if it was?
Well, it was true, and I did consider. Obviously, it was a great honor to even be talking to Alabama. But at that time, it was one of those situations where my family was young, West Coast based. I had another opportunity kind of on the line that would have kept us in a position where we basically could have lived where we were at the time, and so I opted to try to get that one, and ironically that one didn't work out, but there's a plan out there, and everything worked out for the best. But I certainly appreciated that, and it was really, really a difficult decision.
Now, you coached Jim Harbaugh in the NFL, obviously. When you were coaching him, did you have any idea that A, he would become a coach, and B, he would become this successful of a coach? And was he always like this outspoken, larger-than-life kind of figure?
He was awesome to coach. Jim was a fantastic competitor, really, always to the nth degree well prepared. He was really fun to be around. He was a magnet for people. I think people just followed him, and he was as a veteran guy who was near the end of his career. He was still like the hardest off-season worker. I mean, he had all those things that that kind of made him who he was as a player, and he's just carried that into coaching. He's exactly the same guy, and he is a good person. We were fortunate to have his son Jay work with us for 3 years at Oregon State as an undergraduate assistant, and so we've been close to them for a long time. Just a ton of respect for what he's done. And yes, I thought he'd be a coach for sure. There was just almost no doubt about that. And knowing Jim back then, you just knew he'd be successful too.
Those things are probably related too. You said people just tend to follow him. I mean, being a leader on a football team, I mean, it's different obviously than being a coach, a college coach, and trying to recruit. But if you have that personality where people are going to follow you, that lends itself to success in recruiting too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does for sure. He's been always very, very competitive, and a big part of what we do is compete for recruits, compete on the field. Our life is still full of that part of it that's real important to it, and Jim obviously has just carried that on.
How long did it take him to reach out to you when you guys got hired together at the same year, or did you come the year after? I don't have the timeline in front of me in the Big Ten.
We were actually the same year. Yeah, okay. We broke in at the same time, and we did talk a little bit in there, and I don't even remember, except it was just about the jobs probably. It wasn't anything more than that at that time, but it has been fun to have to watch him and to be in the same league with him, and then to have Paul Christ, who was also on our staff at San Diego, be the head coach at Wisconsin, and we all came at the same time to these places, so it's pretty ironic.
I got to ask you about another former quarterback before I let you go, and I'm not really too interested in what happened between you guys because that's all out there, but you obviously coach Ryan Leaf as well, and he's kind of this notorious figure for a guy that just didn't work out after college. Do you think it was all mental with him, or, I mean, what was it that kind of held him back from really becoming the player that everybody thought he was going to be?
Well, I think that Ryan, he had been in the league a year when I got to San Diego, and our big job, was going to be try to help him become what the organization needed him to be, and obviously the potential that he had, and initially the very, very first year, that's when we signed Jim Harbaugh to be Ryan's kind of veteran backup, and then Ryan got hurt right away and missed that whole first year that we were there with an injury, and Jim quarterbacked our team, and then we hoped to establish a base for Ryan for the future, and frankly we failed in that part of it, and whatever that was after that, it was one of those things that you wanted to make it work, and I think Ryan worked at it to try to make it work, and it actually never did with us, and it was just one of those stories that you'd like to be able to go back and change.
Before I let you go, one more to put you on the spot here. How many years left does Mike Riley have coaching? I mean, I'm sure you get asked that all the time. Have you given any thought about that?
I love it. My wife and I never talk about retirement. When my age is mentioned, it's like it doesn't connect with me because I just don't feel like that. I'm gonna enjoy it as long as I can, and I still love all the parts. I love the football part of it. I love the having a team and getting to know the team. That's what's been fun about the second year here, is just establishing those relationships. And so we're on a big project here that is going to go year by year and try to win a championship here at Nebraska. So that's really what we think about. We don't think about the end game at this time.
So you're on the Bill Snyder plan, possibly. Then you could be in there. You could be in there up to his age.
I love it, So I'm not really thinking about when it might be. Now, if my wife was on the line with us, she might have another opinion, but she loves it too. And so we've done this thing together for a long time, and we're enjoying it.
Mike, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and let's do it again sometime.
Anytime. That was fun.